Hi everyone. I wanted to check in today and do a quick video about an opera I saw last weekend, and I haven't had a chance to do video on it yet, so I wanted to get a quick video out on it while it was still sort of fresh in my mind. The opera was Der Fliegende Holländer, The Flying Dutchman by Wagner. So during this video I am going to have opera spoilers, so if you do not want to hear opera spoilers, then do not watch this video. The opera's been around for over 100 years, but, I wasn't that familiar with it, so I didn't particularly know the story either. But I don't think it necessarily hurts to know the story to see an opera, to know the story beforehand before you see an opera. And typically I actually try to, because it just enhances my understanding when I'm actually watching and hearing an opera. So anyway, there will be opera spoilers. So why I chose to go to see this opera is, I really love Wagner's operas, the ones that I have heard and seen. I have never actually seen a Wagner opera performed live until last weekend. This was the first. I had seen some of them perform streaming from the Metropolitan Opera in New York, and I had seen from Amazon Prime also has some operas available. So I've seen some. I've seen for example, the Ring Cycle, and I've seen Parsifal and Tristan and Isolde. So I've seen those operas only on DVD, but this was the first live performance, and so I really wanted to go. The Virginia Opera, I saw this at a performance by the Virginia Opera, which the Virginia Opera performs their season around different cities in Virginia, and I went to the performance in Fairfax, Virginia, at George Mason University. And this here is the playbill from that. And just to run down quickly who was, this was conducted by Adam Turner. The director was Sarah Widzer. The cast, the Dutchman was Wayne Tiggs, I think is how you pronounce that. Dalen was Peter Volpe. Cinta was Christina Peer. Eric was Corey Bix. And the, like I said, the conductor was Adam Turner. Here is the cast. Full cast right there. Yeah, so really glad I did. So what the opera's about, just a brief synopsis, is there's a captain of a sailing ship, the Flying Dutchman, the Dutchman, he's known as, and he is doomed and cursed to roam the oceans with his ghost crew until he manages to find a true love, basically. A woman who will be true to him, actually. It's a little different. And he comes to shore every 7 years and does this search, and then if he's unsuccessful in finding a woman who will be true to him, then he sets out to sea again. And so far he's been unsuccessful with this, and he has roamed the seas for decades, if not centuries. So we pick up the story. He's coming into port because it's time 7 years are up, and he comes up next to another ship that is in the process of heading home, and this crew is anxiously trying to go head home, and they meet with the Dutchman's ship, and the two captains meet, and during the course of the conversation, the captain tells the Dutchman he has a daughter. The Dutchman tells the captain his story, that he, is looking for a wife and a home, that he has no home and he has no wife, and he's also very wealthy, has a lot of treasure. So this piques the interest of the captain, who has a daughter, Cinta, back home. So meanwhile, Cinta, back home is working in a spinning factory or a rope factory or some kind of factory with a bunch of other women, and the other women are very, 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 very anxious, singing songs, waiting on their sweethearts to come back home, the sailors to come back home because they know they're coming. But Cinta's not joining in their fun and frivolity because she's pining away over a portrait of the Dutchman because she is obsessed with this story, and she kind of flips everybody around her out by constantly being obsessed by the story of the Flying Dutchman and carrying this portrait around. So the captain invites the Dutchman home to meet his daughter. The Dutchman's like getting his hopes up a little bit that maybe she will be the one, and the father, of course, wants that to occur because he's wealthy, and so he wants to them to get together. So when they meet, also we find out, meanwhile, Cinta's actually got another boyfriend. So she's got this other boyfriend who is called the Huntsman. His name is Eric, and he, seems to really love Cinta, and he wants her to marry him, and she kind of puts him off, and so she's sort of leading him on, I thought. But meanwhile, anyway, she goes back home, and she and the Dutchman meet, and she realizes who he is, and of course she's completely blown away. The Dutchman still wonders if she could possibly be the one. They sort of have a connection. They feel like they're maybe made for each other, and so they get married. But meanwhile, Cinta, Eric, the Huntsman, her former boyfriend now, comes to her, and he's brokenhearted because he can't believe she's like married someone else, and he had been trying to get her to marry him forever, and that she had led him on, etc. Well, then the Dutchman comes in, sees them together, assumes she's been untrue, and heads back out to sea. And this leaves Cinta can't convince him that she hasn't been untrue, that she is still true to him, and the only way she feels like she can show that and prove that is to follow him out to sea in death. So she commits suicide, basically. And then you see their spirits sort of ascending into the ether together. So the curse has been broken, and the Dutchman is then freed along with Cinta as spirits, leaving a broken-hearted Eric behind. So that was kind of the story. What I took away from it, for one, the one thing about it was the father was just so mercenary. He basically was just willing to sell Cinta, his daughter, for this money. So there was that. But she was more than happy to marry the Dutchman because she was so obsessed with his story beforehand. And then the Dutchman was so wanting it to work with Cinta, wanting her to be true. So my take on that was at first it didn't feel really genuine to me. He wants her to, only because he thinks that she will be true to him. He doesn't particularly love her. He just wants her to free him from his curse. And then on the other hand, for Cinta, I was it didn't feel real genuine, her love either, because she felt like she was in love with an idea. She was in love with the myth of the Dutchman. So it didn't feel real genuine. But then, eventually they do. I did feel that once they made a connection that there was something real there between them. So I did get that, but then it just always came back to for me, so I kind of wondered where that was, as well as the other part of the story is the sailors on the captain's ship, not the Dutchman ship, but the other ship. They're all so excited to go home because they want to go home and see those that they love, their sweethearts. And the girls in the factory that work with Cinta are the same way, that they sing like they can't wait for their sweethearts to come, and that's all they can think about is being reunited with their sweethearts. And so then there was this sort of very serious sort of different story going on between Cinta and the Dutchman than what was going on with the other sailors and the other women. So I thought that was interesting, interesting sort of dichotomy difference between those two different kinds of love that were being portrayed in the opera. And then we had the Eric. I thought this was extremely interesting as part of the opera was Cinta, who's can't wait to be true. Even before she had met the Dutchman, she was singing about how she would save him and she would be true to him forever. And she, was the one that would save him, basically. She was not behaving in a true, in a completely honest manner with Eric. She kind of put him off, at first, and then she really just, without a thought, tossed him aside. Then when the Dutchman came along, and then the other piece about that was, I thought it was really, sort of interesting at the end where Cinta does remain true to the Dutchman, but she did so by being untrue to her former lover, Eric. So she freed one man with her true love, but she really sort of broke another man's heart, or set him, maybe he wasn't he was symbolically cut loose and sent out to sail the seas to find love again. So maybe he was symbolically became another Dutchman, not literally going out to sea, obviously, but sort of in this lost space of not having love. So I thought that was extremely interesting too. So I think that's all I'll say about the Flying Dutchman. I loved this performance live. It was completely different than watching or hearing a Wagner opera, as has been my experience so far, only recorded or on DVD. So this was a great experience. I will have the opportunity to see and hear the Ring Cycle by Richard Wagner. Actually starts today in Washington, so I will be doing some videos on those operas too, so stay tuned for that. Until then, I will talk to you soon. Bye.